panel. Congressman Walden, you're up.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Hastings, Ranking Member Grijalva, it's an honor to be before this wonderful committee on which I used to serve. I appreciate the opportunity to share some comments with you today. This is both an important and timely hearing, and I'm encouraged that your committee has taken this up and is interested in identifying long-term solutions for our federal forests, counties, and the people who live there. I want to recognize my colleague from Oregon who proves that real men can wear pink, Congressman Peter DeFazio. We've had productive discussions and agree that the status quo serves no one well, and it's time for real change. In 2000, as you've mentioned, Congress authorized county payments in recognition that layers of environmental regulations had throttled timber production on federal lands that deprived the local communities of timber receipts that help fund local schools, roads, and emergency services. And I would direct your eyes to this chart where the gold line shows the drop in federal timber harvest from a high of nearly 5 billion board feet in the mid-'80s to less than 1/2 a billion in 2009. And since 1990, federal timber harvests have dropped more than 90%, while harvests on private land has remained at a stable, sustainable level. This year, the third reauthorization of county payments expires, and more than 9 million school children in 729 counties nationwide will be impacted. I think we can all agree the status quo doesn't work and will not work going forward. Our communities don't even want the status quo. They don't want the handout that's made them dependent on the federal government. They want jobs. They want healthy forests. They're tired of the catastrophic fires and bug infestations. They're sick of the budgeting uncertainty that comes with not knowing if Uncle Sam will pay his fair share. They want the ability to pursue the American ideal of self-reliance once more. When county payments was created in 2000, it was thought of as a bridge payment so rural counties could transition away from their resource-based economy. But let's get real. These are federal forested counties. The government controls more than half the land in most of them and nearly 80% in some. And the notion that they have the ability to recreate their economies in a decade's time is simply absurd. The federal government owns most of the land but has all but stopped productive forestry on it, is shutting down public access to it, fails largely to produce economic value or renewable energy from it, and all too often stands idly by and lets it go up in smoke every year. The loss of county payments will be felt most in western states like Oregon, where the federal government owns 60% of the forests, but only produces just 12% of the timber harvest, as seen in orange on both of these pie charts. The mortality rates are above 19% on federal forest lands. That's not a healthy picture. Private forests in Oregon produce 73% of the harvested timber with a mortality rate of just 3.8%, maintaining a net growth rate of 22%. And according to the Forest Service, timber harvest from our federal lands nationwide has fallen 80% since 1990, while wildfires have burned an average of 7.8 million acres every year for the last 5 years, an area larger than the state of Maryland. Meanwhile, there's an unemployment crisis in many rural counties. In central, southern, and eastern Oregon, unemployment is commonly well into the double digits. Here on the monitors, we're going to take a 30-second trip through time, 30 years of it, as mill closures and job losses occurred in Oregon. From 1980 to 2010, we went from 405 open mills to just 106 open mills, a 74% decrease in capacity available to do work in the woods. We went from 45,778 mill jobs to 15,706 in that time, a 66% loss of jobs. My colleagues, this isn't an opportunity to act. This is an obligation to act and deliver a real solution, one that puts Americans back to work on public lands, makes our forests healthy for habitat and taxpayers alike, and spares communities of the uncertainty of wondering every 4 years if the federal government will owe up to its end of the bargain. Now, here are some thoughts for the committee to consider. Paralysis by analysis and litigation have pushed federal forested counties to the brink. There's bipartisan agreement that using HIFRA-style pre-decisional objection and expedited judicial review processes could help. There's also an understanding that in order to get the job done, there should be exemptions for certain qualifying projects from appeals and litigations. Trusts also work. Nationwide, land trusts annually return billions to beneficiaries from resources on state public lands. Chairman Hastings and Congresswoman McMorris Rodgers know well. Their state is a good example. 2.9 million acres are managed by the Washington Department of Natural Resources in trusts for schools. In 2005, they produced gross revenues of nearly $300 million. Trusts work in Arizona and in New Mexico, too. And on a nationwide basis, trusts could help keep the schools' doors open, keep the roads in good repair, keep sheriff's deputies on patrol while families sleep well at night. These are just a few ideas. I appreciate the committee coming together today to look at this long-running problem and helping us tackle this difficult issue and taking charge to find a solution.